Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you were doing well. I can tell you that this video shifted. I originally wanted to talk about tech stocks. I wanted to talk about Nvidia, Micron, what their performance was last week. What was the reason for that performance? What was going to be the impact of the producer price index? But in the last 24 hours, the geopolitical landscape has significantly changed. And if we were planning for a normal opening on Monday when the bell rang for the market, we can throw those plans out the window. The geopolitical landscape has shifted significantly, and it will have a major impact on the market. We move from this shimmering tension between the U.S. and Iran to a major combat operation that is underway right now in the region with Operation Epic Fury. Operation Epic Fury is a aligned effort between the U.S. and Israeli militaries, and it will have a major impact and a major de-risking into the market when we open up on Monday. I think we'll see a significant shift from riskier assets into safe haven plays. So in this video, I want to take a look at the last three operations that happened in that region. What impact did it have on the market? Can we use any of that historical information to start to predict of what we think will happen and how long will it last? And I want to take a look at some of the tech stocks. What are we at risk for there? What do we think will happen with major players like Nvidia and Micron? And who are the big winners in this environment? What companies can see significant inflows of investments or rotation into because of the service or the product they provide that is needed right now? And then finally, I'm going to talk about a fun competition for us to do in the month of March. I just thought now is a perfect time. I had an idea that was floated by some listeners to the channel. And I think with everything that happened towards the second half of the week on the market and what we're seeing right now around the world, maybe it's a great opportunity to just do something fun together as a community to take our attention away from those factors. So I'll launch a fun competition in March. Make sure you stay towards the end of the video so you can hear what that is and you can have the opportunity to participate. It is limited participation. If you haven't done it already, hit like, subscribe to the channel, but let's jump in and talk about what is happening. I'm going to take us over to the Wall Street Journal first to just lay the foundation on the market. And you can see on your screen, the U.S.-Israeli attack Iran as Trump urges Iranians to seize power. The president cites the need to eliminate imminent threats. Iran, in response, has targeted Israel. It has targeted U.S. bases. And it also, I saw a video earlier, you may have seen it, of a missile strike from Iran in Dubai. So there is, unfortunately, some major operations that are happening right now. We'll pray for peace, but let's think about how it'll have an impact on our investments and what we may see moving forward. So I want to talk about three operations for you guys that we have seen. One is Desert Storm. If you remember, it was in 1990, 1991. What happened when that operation or war occurred on the market? So on day one, there was a 1.1% drop. We actually saw close to a 17% drop in total for that operation. It took 79 days for the market to draw down to the bottom, but it took 190 days for the market to recover. There were some major structural changes that occurred that. And if you compare that or contrast it, let's say, with Operation Freedom, which was in 2003, Operation Freedom, again, same drop the first day of about 1.1%. But we only saw a 2% total drop or drawdown from that operation. It only took 1 day to reach the bottom and 1 day to recover. Completely different. And we'll talk about the reasons why, because in addition, in 2023, with the Israeli-Hamas conflict, we saw something very similar. In fact, the opening market didn't drop. It grew by, the S&P grew by 0.3 the first day. And it took 14 days to reach the bottom or draw down and 19 days to recover overall. So what were some of the big reasons or the differences between those two? And it was mostly the structural change. And this will be the biggest thing we have to keep our eye on. It's the oil prices. In the Desert Storm in the 1990, there was a significant impact and shortage on oil, which lasted for months, which caused the market to stay suppressed. And so right now we know we ended on Friday with the Brent crude oil of about $73 a barrel. But we're hearing noise that several major companies are going to halt their shipments through the Strait of Hormuz. And if that's the case, that strait, there's about 20% of the global supply that moves through there. That will have an impact on the price per barrel and could push it up to, analysts are saying right now, $100 per barrel. This affects everything. Higher oil prices means higher costs for everything. And this will also ultimately also kill the potential for a rate cut in March, which many of us were hoping for on this channel, which many were hoping to help be able to boost the market overall. But when you see companies like Nvidia that have a high multiple, they are particularly sensitive to rates. If the higher for longer narrative becomes higher forever, valuations will be reset across the board. And for high growth tech stocks like Micron, like Nvidia, and like others, this is the worst case scenario that could happen. So that's the piece that caused the long recovery in the 1990 in Operation Desert Storm. When you take a look at some of the other ones, like I mentioned, like Operation Freedom, that were a lot faster. Those were more flash shock and like a flash shock kind of to the market, which only lasted a short period of time. There were some others that were not major wars, but if you look at 2017 in Syria, the bombings that happened in Syria, and in 2020 with the Iranian drone strikes, the market recovered within 5 to 20 days in those conflicts. It was very quick. We know that Operation Freedom recovered within 1 day. So there wasn't major structural changes there. That's the first piece we have to keep our eye on. But we think about high-tech stocks in general. How will they respond? We knew that Nvidia and Micron were sluggish in the second half of the week. We know it was where people were continuing to have fear around AI, around the CapEx spend, around circular financing, around just thinking that the price was, everything that was great about these companies was already built into the stock price. So we did see some rotation away. We know the Samsung news hype hurt Micron as well, but it makes you wonder if some of the smart money saw this coming over the weekend. Did they anticipate the bubbling tensions to lead out to a full combat operation that we see right now? Because even after Nvidia posted record earnings, their stock fell 5%. And the reasons we know I discussed, but if we think about moving forward, just know that companies like Nvidia and Micron, they rely on a smooth, perfectly functioning global supply chain to move their products back and forth. And when war in the Middle East is occurring, it creates shipping friction and logistical chaos around the world. So what impact will that have on a company like Nvidia, who not only from a sovereign AI perspective is looking to move some of their GPUs and their chips into these other countries? What impact will that have overall? What impact will it have on companies' spend and just their ability to move product? Micron is the same way. They rely on a multifaceted global supply chain that has to operate perfectly as they move their product from country to country, out of the US back to the US. So they'll have an impact there, but they also will have an impact. I think both of these companies is traditionally during wars like this, we see the US dollar strengthen as a safe haven play. If the US dollar strengthens, it will have an impact on Micron's chips, on Nvidia's chips, because they become more expensive for the international customers or clients to purchase them. So in times of war like this, we can see an impact on the dollar, which has cascading impact on companies' ability to purchase products from the US. But there's companies right now that are positioned to win or to benefit from the operation or from a war environment. And those obviously are the defense companies. So we can think of companies such as Palantir, Anduril, Lockheed Martin, which will benefit from massive inflows, in my opinion, as we shift the narrative from AI to chatbots, to AI for autonomous defense. You know, Lockheed, RTX, Palantir obviously plays in this new environment. Palantir has been trading at a pretty low level. We'll see if it jumps on Monday when the market opens. They are an obvious play here. They sit at the intersection of AI and battlefield management. So Operation Epic Fury, their tech is no longer just a luxury for the U.S. defense or for other companies in this area. It will be the backbone of the mission moving forward. I think you also have to think historically, what has Iran done in these situations? They have done cyber attacks. They have gone after the Western infrastructure. So I would expect a jump in companies like CrowdStrike, Palo Alto Networks, that have, since Iran has historically done this type of attack, these type of cyber attacks in response to physical attacks against their country. Cybersecurity is no longer a luxury spend for companies. It is a survival spend overall. And I think you can see the dollar and US gold start to shift. We know gold was up 1.5% last week. It is the ultimate safe haven. It's pushing closer to 5,300 an ounce right now. Will we see that go up over 5,500 an ounce that we saw at the high this year? The US dollar, as I mentioned, strengthens as a safe haven play. So the super dollar effect makes American companies and the products they have more expensive for overseas buyers in Asia and Europe. So it potentially can hurt international sales for these companies. But if you're an investor that's looking to place your dollars in safe havens or safe investments until the dust settles down on the situation, gold and the US dollar have historically been safe strategic moves in this type of environment. So how long will it last, or what are some lessons we need to know as investors? I talked about how long it will last on other. It could range from months. Desert Storm we saw was almost 190 days. It could be a week, as we saw with Operation Freedom, as we saw with the Israeli-Hamas conflict. It really will depend on whether the Strait of Hormuz gets shut, how long of an impact it will have on oil and other factors in there. But I will say the S&P 500 bottoms out exactly when oil prices peaked, long before the war is actually over. So markets are always looking forward, as you know, and the market will stop falling once it believes that the worst scenario is baked into the price or baked into the index. It'll stop when that happens. It won't be when the fighting stops. We may see the market recover while the fighting is continuing on. As long as they feel like the worst scenario is built in, we'll start to see recovery. I think also you'll see some liquidity issues that are going on, liquidity traps. So during these type of wars or environments or conflicts, investors typically panic sell, and they sell their best stocks because those are the ones that have had huge runs where profit is baked in. So they'll sell those so they can capture and lock in the gains. And this will create a mechanical sell-off. We'll see significant movement and sell-off within the market right now. The lesson overall for us is don't make a mistake by moving on some of your stocks out of panic. Don't panic sell. If the company's earnings or fundamentals haven't changed, the war dip is historically one of the best times for us to find buying opportunities, not to sell some of the best companies we've had that have driven returns in our portfolio. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye out there. Are there going to be opportunities to pick up some great assets that maybe were a little higher out of your price point in the past, but now they will dip this week, and there's a great opportunity for you to move in and take advantage of this war dip. Do it at your own risk, of course. Do your research. Make sure you assess it against your own individual risk tolerance. I'm not a financial advisor. I said this is just an opportunity when you should be looking for great buy opportunities. And then finally, gold and the US dollar. As I mentioned, they're safe haven plays, and they usually play well in the first 30 days. But just know once the fog of war kind of fades away, leadership and smart money always rotates back into the sectors with the highest earnings growth. And in 2025 and 2026, those sectors have definitely been AI, semiconductor sector, and the tech sector overall. So I think on Monday, when the markets open up, we will see a liquidity event. I expect to see red across the board. I expect to see a lot of panic selling, some mechanical sell-offs, some algorithmic sell-offs that happen within the market as it kind of feeds to each other as well. My recommendation for me what I'm going to be doing in my own personal opinion is I'm not going to be panicking. I'm not going to be selling. I'm going to continue to remind myself that these companies I invest in are fundamentally strong. They're some of the strongest companies on earth. And if they get washed out in the first week, from all the panic selling, if there's a 10% panic dip in some of these companies where they drop down to historically valuable price points, generational buying opportunities will call for some of these assets. If you're a long-term investor like I am, there'll be a great opportunity to look for assets to add to your portfolio, especially if you're looking in the 2-year and beyond horizon like I am. So that's my uptake of what's happening right now. Now I want to shift over and just share with you an opportunity that we're going to do together. So I had some listeners on the channel talk to me about how can you pull us together and just have some fun as a group. So let me remove that. Let me add this in. and you can see on your screen, Stock Madness, I'm calling it, the TG Market Mayhem Championship. For those that are familiar with NCAA, you'll see I have a very clean setup, cool setup that's exactly like that. We have 4 regions. We have the bull run, the bear trap, the dark pool, and the short squeeze. So 64 viewers, -1, 63 we'll say, because I'm going to do it as well. You'll pick one stock with a market cap over 50 billion. Well, I want to make sure we keep in somewhat fair. We don't have any small cap stocks. So you need a market cap over 50 billion. Send me an email. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. Make sure you go into my bio on the channel, find my email, send me an email with your name and your pick. The first 63 viewers that send me their pick will be included into the Stock Madness Championship. And you'll see, I'll just jump to the next one. We have 4 regions, very similar to the NCAA, 16 viewers in each region. They'll battle every week. It'll be a head-to-head battle of the change for the stock in that given week. Whoever has the higher positive change will move on to the next week, and then we'll get it down till we have, this is obviously the bull run region, we have the bear trap region, dark pool, and then we have the short squeeze region. We will find a winner for each of those regions that'll come together as our final 4, and they will battle for the week, and then we'll come down to the final 2 stocks, the final 2 picks by 2 viewers on this channel that will battle in that final week to ultimately land on the champion. So hopefully you find this situation fun like I do. It matches up with what we'll see in the NCAA. Great way for us to engage with each other and have some fun on the channel. Also look at some stocks and talk about stocks that we may not always talk about. But here's again, just to remind you, if you want to participate, find my email on the channel, subscribe to the channel, send me your name, your stock recommendation. It has to have a market cap over 50 billion to participate in there. I'm going to take the first 63 viewers that respond in order in my email. We'll get them loaded up, and we're going to look at performance every week. So it'll start on Monday, our first week of March. We'll take a look at who wins on Sunday, look at the performance over the course of that week. Half the field will be eliminated, and we'll keep moving until we end up in that first week of April. We'll recrown our first ever champion on this channel. So hope you enjoyed that idea. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hope you're having a great weekend, guys. Talk to you soon.